Happy Thursday, and thank you for joining us for this lunchtime news broadcast, which shares the news making headlines across Namibia, Africa, and the globe. Economic news, local stories, international headlines, and sports updates all lined up for this broadcast. Headlining today's show. Namibian scientist speaks about ensuring that Namibia can tackle the worst of the climate crisis. 11 newborn babies die in a hospital blaze in Senegal. Texas gunman who shot 21 at an elementary school said to have sent messages about the attack minutes before it happened. KPMG to pay a fine of £3.3 million. These and more stories coming up in today's show. I am Aina Raizakoya and this is NMH at 1. In today's midday news update, effective from the 1st of June, the current regional commander in Erongo, Commissioner Andreas Nelumbu, will be replaced by Deputy Commissioner Nicholas Kupembona. Nelumbu has been appointed as police attaché in Luanda, Angola. Kupembona, currently coordinator of criminal investigations in the Khomas region, is promoted to the rank of commissioner. He will be replaced as coordinator in Windhoek by Deputy Commissioner Crispin Mumbebo, currently serving in the Karas region. Chief Inspector Nicodemus Mbango from the Ochonzo-Ndupa region will be promoted to Deputy Commissioner and will fill Mumbebo's position in Karas. Bank Windhoek this week introduced the first contactless enable feature across cash accepting ATMs, becoming the first financial institution in Namibia to enable this functionality. The new contactless feature allows customers to tap on contactless enable ATMs, enter their PIN and proceed to transact. The contactless feature's main benefits are speeding up with the card verification process and limiting unnecessary contact with devices. The contactless ATM functionality complements the existing touch-free point of sale tap functionality available at most Namibian retailers. And on that note, we have more news for you coming up after the break.
I usually spend about 600 Namibian dollars for a full tank, which usually lasts me the entire month because I do not drive around that much. The longest stretch I've ever gone with my car is to Kamanyap, and that was for leisure purposes. The service at the Namco service station is excellent because when you get there, you're met by employees who are always ready to cater to you. Whether it's them fueling your car, checking your tire pressure, offering to wash your windscreen, or checking your engine oil. The one thing that makes me proudly Namibian is being able to experience Namibia in all its beauty through travel.
In today's visual news, Reinhold Munguju is a younger Namibian scientist and climate justice activist fighting to ensure Namibia can tackle the worst of the climate crisis. Here he shares with Anna Marie Smith about where his passion comes from and the already worsening impact of climate change in Namibia. Let's have a look.
Hi, Reinhold. Thank you so much for joining me today. You are an environmental scientist and you are also a climate justice activist here in Namibia. Can you tell me a little bit where this passion comes from for climate and environment?
Yeah, thank you so much, Jana. I'm a full environmental activist as well as a sustainability practitioner. And my passion for people and planet really started at a very young age because I was born in a small village in the north. And unfortunately for me, much what I could see, whether it's the beautiful forests that used to exist, were through narratives and stories told by my dad. And at that point, I think I really got passionate about people and about the environment to really restore the lost forest in our lands, but also in overall to start navigating and co-creating solutions to build the form of future we need, because as a young person, I grew up to see very little compared to the stories that was told by my dad. And since then, as a youngster, as a teenager that embarked on a sustainability journey, whether it's with the Namibia University of Science and Technology or with my studies with the Stellenbosch University, I really grew passionate about people and planet, and therefore committing my whole life and professional career to serve. In the midst of my studying, pursuing my Master's of Philosophy in Sustainable Development Management and Planning with the Stellenbosch University, I really fell in love with the idea of social justice because as a young practitioner or as a young environmentalist, I started realizing that at the center of development should be social justice, because in actual fact, sustainability should be about equity, equality, and the fair distribution of common resources such as water, such as land, and any other precious resources that are acting as life support systems.
Reinhold, for you, what are some of the gravest threats we as Namibians face as a result of the climate crisis?
Yeah. So, Namibia as a country, we are arid in a sense that about 80% of our fresh water, rainwater evaporates. And over the decades, we have been facing very progressive droughts. In 2013, we experienced one of the worst droughts in 30 years. And as climate change continues to worsen, water as a critical resource is going to be affected, because water also drives how systems functions. And for instance, since 2013 to 2019, we have declared a national state of emergency because of drought for 3 consecutive times, And with climate change, it's only going to get worse. We'll be facing more progressive droughts, and some of these, the severity of these droughts are quite evident already. We know what happened in the Kunene for the past 4-5 years, for instance, where people, local indigenous people, face a climate migration. We really start to see that this causes as a cause and effect relationship, because we know the drought affected, for instance, communities in Kunene, but then later on we started seeing people moving to the city in search of greener pastures. And then again, that leads to another pressure in the city. So water is really one of the resources that is going to be affected by climate change, and it's quite critical for us as an arid country. Water is a vital resource for Namibia. It drives how socio-ecological systems function, it drives how people move, it drives the economy. Then another element that is sort of going to be affected by climate change is food security, When the drought of 2013 hit Namibia, we became very food insecure. And unfortunately, with us, we are dependent on South Africa. And for the last years, we've started seeing the need and the urgency to sort of promote our local food systems because we have started seeing, courtesy of COVID-19 and now the war in Europe, we are seeing a lot of these food supply chains being affected. And we are going to suffer the most because we are not independent. We do not produce our own healthy and local food. So agriculture, which is also an important sector to Namibia, will be affected. We look at Windhoek and we look at the informal settlements or the poor communities where people are living in very destitute conditions. That what we are seeing is the worse the food security, the more the food insecurity, the more the social problems and health problems in terms of malnutrition. We are seeing, for instance, every